So it's been 2 months since I ended my employment at the ice cream parlor. And the one thing that I took away from overqualified and underemployed was, frankly, there were plenty of people in my life that had no idea that I was working at an ice cream parlor. Frankly, I didn't tell a lot of people at all what I was doing, only to find out when I finally released the film, because I sat on it for like 2 months, only to find out when I released the film that a lot of my friends and colleagues are in the exact same boat. Either they've been out of work for a lot longer than I have, 2 years in some cases. One of my former colleagues posted something the other day talking about how is it that someone with so much experience can have such a difficult time finding a role. A friend of mine is driving an Uber Eats delivery. I know someone else that's working at Trader Joe's. And these are people with degrees and 2 decades plus experience who are all of a sudden finding ourselves devalued. It's bizarre. And we're not the first generation that this happened to, but they still don't prepare you for the eventuality that, maybe here and there, the world is going to pass you by. LinkedIn, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Monster. There might be like 2 or 3 listings a day at this point that I see that I apply to. But this is the game. It's sending out as many resumes as possible. It's writing and rewriting different versions of my resumes depending on what job I'm applying to. Having some resumes that lean more towards creative, or having some resumes that lean more towards executive, project management, content strategy, things like that. I had always been an illustrator and artist. I was a graphic designer. There was a time in the kind of ad industry in New York City in the 90s where if you could open Photoshop, you could get a job. So that was what I did. Like all throughout the 90s. And it was graphic design, interactive design, then eventually multimedia. When desktop video became a thing, people started producing their own content in-house as opposed to going to a production company. That was how I started producing commercials and industrials and sizzle reels and documentaries, and eventually moving into cooking shows and fitness shows. And I'm finding that I kind of sit in this space where I not only have the executive experience of producing, project managing, writing pitch decks, pitching to clients, all the things that go into on the back end putting a project together, all the logistics, everything, scheduling, budgeting, all of that stuff. But at the same time, I know how to use a camera. I know how to direct talent. I know how to set up lights. I know how to take all of that stuff, bring it into the computer, and finish it. Like all the sound design, color grading, editing, everything. I could literally, by myself, take a project from idea to here world, here it is. So I just had my second interview in about less than a week. I had my first interview on Friday with a recruiter, and I've had a few interviews with recruiters before, and they never really went anywhere. So I am not expecting this one to go anywhere either. I just got off of the phone with a second interview that I've had with a different company. This is not with a recruiter. This is with an actual company. And it went well. It was 20 minutes. I think it went well. The last time I had a phone interview that I thought went well, it didn't. I had an interview where I had to make a 90-second video introducing myself. This time with this interview, I got scheduled for a second interview. It's on Friday. It's Wednesday now. They need to hire somebody by next week. It's not a bad role. So Friday, um, we'll see what happens. I had developed this tradition of occupying myself with something, with a project or something, in the eventuality that I get laid off. The very first time that happened, where I got laid off, it took me a few months to find a job. I wrote this. It used to be called Bedtime for Oscar. I wrote this story in college for a creative writing class. I wrote a children's book. My mother never forgot about, like, well, you need to publish that. You need to get that published as a book. So a few years ago, I published the book. This is all hand-drawn. I did all the illustrations. I drew it all in pencil, scanned it in Photoshop, inked it, and colored it in Photoshop, laid it all out in design. This is my first layoff project. My second layoff project was my second children's book called Horrible Creatures. This idea I came up with right after I finished Oscar's Dream World. I wrote the words in like 20 minutes. It's a rhyming story. It all just came to me very quickly. This is basically inspired by videos, like all those Karen videos. And I would hate seeing the ones where people of color were getting screamed at and bullied and barked at just for existing in the world. And oftentimes these people, they're kids around. Either the parents are getting dressed down, either the kids are getting dressed down by these screaming, crazy adults. So that's what I did is I told this story where adults, in situations with adults screaming, lashing out, usually typically racist tirades, and how kids can deal with those things. Now, this is the longest period I think I've been laid off. So during the summer when I had the job at the ice cream parlor, I mean, there were hours in the day where there would be no one in the store. It would be really slow, it would be dead. So I decided to use that time to work out this idea that I had like a few months earlier while I was still employed. And that is this book. It's called Dogwood. This is a murder mystery thriller set in 1962. It's FBI going to a town to investigate a series of murders and find a lot of hidden secrets. This is my kind of like, this is like Mississippi Burning meets the X-Files. Okay, that was the second interview for this job and that I had with the person who I would be working with. It was scheduled to be 30 minutes. It went on for an hour. There was a time when I would do these interviews where I could tell if I got it or not, or if I did well or not. I don't know. I don't know how I did. I don't know. It was a really nice conversation. It was great. I did my research on the company. I had plenty of questions. See, this is another thing that I hate is the waiting. It's going to be a couple of weeks for them to make a decision on this, or a couple of weeks, I guess, before the next phases of this thing, or they're going to make a decision in that time. So probably by February. I'm glad I've been able to have these interviews because it does give me something where I feel like I'm accomplishing something. If there's an in-person, we'll see. That's the next phase will be an in-person. So we'll see, I guess. To be continued.
Express train, 125th, Grand Central only, please activate your
I am just getting back from the city from my third interview for this company. This was an in-person interview. So here we are. This is it. It was great. I met with 5 people. I think it went well. At this point, when a company decides to meet with you, especially when you're meeting with a lot of different people, it's usually, I'm sure it's down to me and a couple of other people. And, at this point, they just want to see what you're like. Whether it's like what they say, a cultural fit. Just they just want to make sure that this is that you're the type of person they want to work with. It was supposed to be 45 minutes. It went about 30 minutes over that, so it was well over an hour. So I mean, I guess that's a good sign. We'll see. Well, I just went on an aimless walk. I didn't get it, and this is a gut punch more than anything else. I mean, I really felt like I was prepared and thought I said the right things, but it just wasn't enough. It's like a year since I've had an in-person interview, like a little over a year. So it's not like these are easy to come by. To even get an interview in the first place, but to get something that's multiple stages and then just to, get to a point where they have to make a decision and you're just not it. Well, this was like 3 weeks, the entire process. And and as of today, as of an hour ago, finding out that I'm not getting this role, there is nothing else. Like no upcoming interviews, nothing. This was it. And I don't know when something else is going to happen. It had literally been months. I think the last time I had an interview was September of 2024. It was like almost like it was September, October. It was like a month before the store closed for the season. So that was the last time I had an interview. Well, I have no idea. No idea what to tell.